Good morning, all. I hope you all are well. So, in today's lecture, you will be understanding how we can create a mapping in Informatica Developer. You have already done creating PDOs, means physical data objects, then creating profiles to understand the data, and also you have created scorecard in which you had created different groups, right, on the basis of quality of data. So let's start with the mappings from today. So firstly, you need to understand what a mapping is. Then I'll talk about different objectives for today. So in a mapping, you're gonna have a source and onto which you'll be applying some transformations and then sending those changes to the target file. So we have source, transformation, and the target. So in IDQ, the source will be a PDO, physical data object, might be a flat file or any other relational file, data coming from relational data sources. Okay, and the transformation can be there are multiple transformations available, like merge transformation is there, parser transformation is there, but today we're going to understand what is expression transformation, which means that which allows you to add a new column on the basis of the existing columns and then sending that to the target. For example, you are given with some sales value and you want to calculate average sales, then you would add expression transformation to create an empty column and then define your formula over there using a combination of operands or operators. All right. So, what will be the objectives for today's? Firstly, we will create and configure data data object, which you have already done. If you have not done, you can create EMP data file PDO by right clicking over there in your folder in physical data objects. Right click, create new physical data object. Over there, you can choose a flat file and then you can select your file, right? So I have already created it. Let me show you. So these columns are there in this file. We have ID, first name, last name, age is there, Jan salary, Fab salary, then we have department, location, and these are the types of all the columns. And I'm going to click on this run to have a look on the data. So that's the data we have, right? So to create a mapping, you first need to have this PDO, which will be your source file, means the data will be coming from this file and then we'll be applying certain transformations. Okay. And once the step is done, we'll create a mapping, right, in which we'll be adding an expression transformation. Okay, the first step in the mapping will be add this EMP data object to the mapping and then we'll connect to the source data. Means we will first configure the source and then we'll be adding an expression transformation from all the available transformations over there, and then we'll also add that to mapping and configure it, and we will also connect the data coming from the source with the expression transformation. And further, we'll be configuring it expression transformation, and then we'll be adding your target file, emp data target file, and we'll configure it all as well, right? Then we will add it again to the mapping and we'll connect the data which is coming from our expression transformation to the target. Then we'll run the expression transformation to review how your data looks like, and then we can also run data viewer from where we can check the mapping output, whether the changes that we were implying to made are done or not. All right, so let's start with the process now. To create a mapping, you'll be right clicking on your folder and click on new mapping. You have this mapping option over there. I'll be skipping 2 to 3 seconds because to I want you to perform as well along with me. All right, so once I click on the mapping, a new wizard opens where we can. In the next step, we'll be clicking on ports, where you can see all the columns which are coming from the previous object, which is source. Now this is where you can add a new column, means you can add or define a new field over there. So you have to click over there, just to the right of this wizard, top right of this wizard, you can see we have this new option. So I'll click on that, click new. So you can see I've got this option where I can create a new field. So here I'll be writing average salary. Okay, so this average salary will be computing from these two columns which are already there, Jan salary, Fab salary. Okay, so what we'll be doing in this expression is we'll be adding up the salaries of both of these months and divided by 2 so that we get average salary. And then also you have to ensure that the type of this column is decimal. Okay, as the salary, Feb salary column type is data type is decimal also. So make sure you make it decimal, right? And the second thing is, another thing is, we have to uncheck this input. Okay, because this column is only output. So we'll just click unchecking the input. It's input is not coming from anywhere. It's just the output. So uncheck it, and we can also change the location by clicking on this move down uh, option over there, which is just the last option on the screen. So click over there to bring it down. So this option enables you to move up. The next option to that enables you to move down. So if you move up, you'll be able to move that column up. Otherwise, so that's the correct position. And now I'll press Ctrl S to save the changes. If earlier this option was not visible to you, so that's the option which I had selected to move the arrow up, to move the arrow, that column down. Okay, so nextly we'll click on the dependencies, where you can see all the columns in the left side, in the input, and in the output you see one column which is average sal, which we have just added by configuring the properties of expression. So we'll just click over there, and you see this little drop down option. So this is where we can write the expression for this column, because we have not defined from where the data will come from. Okay, means what will be computed in this column. So select this option, and from here you can see we have got this expression option, this window where we can type the expression. So I will, right, and then we'll click on the ports, In the ports, we can see all the columns from the source data, and we can just simply select and drop it over there. So the expression will be select Jan salary, drop it, plus select Feb salary and drop it over there, brackets close, and divided by 2. So that will calculate the average salary of 2 months. Otherwise, you can also check different functions available over there. Like here we have certain functions, and the different categories of functions you can see: character conversion, numerical, date functions are there, so you can use these. So but today we do not need any specific function, simply we need ports. And once you have written the expression, then we can validate the expression is valid and click OK. So now you can see in this output port, data is coming from these two input ports, as these two are highlighted. Once you are done with this step, the last step is adding a target. Since we have not any target file which is already existing, so we will create a new target. So in the next step, click on the physical data object again and click on new PDO, and here I'll be selecting flat file data object. Click next. Here we can we have to select create as empty because we're not having any target file, so create as empty. And then we can specify the name of the data object, which is, I'm going to write it as emp target. And then it will be delimited. You can either create tab or comma. So comma is selected and finish. So this target is created which is not having any columns yet. So we will have to add columns for this target, right? So this is where you'll be adding different columns, because we have to map the fields coming from source and expression to the target, right? So in the target file, we will manually have to create some fields. Firstly, we're gonna have ID, which is number. So you can also change the type from here. Nextly, we're gonna have first name, which is string. Then we're gonna have last name, which is string as well. You can also add fields from here. So once you click and then add new, age, which is a number, then Jan salary is there, so at this point, if you wish to skip any of the columns, means you want limited columns in your target file, then you can add only those number of columns. Suppose you do not want age information or department information, then you can simply skip these two columns. Then you'll only be left with rest of the columns apart from age and department. And lastly, we also need average salary, which is the new column we have added using expression, but this column was not present in our source file. So we've added all the columns, and nextly we need to configure the properties. So we'll click on the advanced. You can see that here the source file name is coming, and I'll write .txt over there instead of .at. Not actually the source file, this time we need the target one. You can see it in the output file directory. Here we will have to mention the output file directory, that which is in info shared folder. We have tgt files where all the target files will be saved. Okay, and the output file name will change to emp target underscore one.txt, and in the output file directory we'll paste the path of the tgt folder, which is C Informatica 10.1.1 server. In info shared folder we have tgt files folder where various target files are present, so we'll paste that path over there and press Ctrl S to save the changes. Now one empty PDO is created, which is just having the columns but not the data. Let me quickly tell you what we have done in this step. We have added these columns which are coming from the source file, and one additional one which is average salary. Okay, it had to change to number. Let me do that. Right, and then click on the advanced, and over there, not in the source file directory, actually you have this is the source file name, source file directory. It has to be the same. You don't have to configure this one, but here in the output file directory we'll be mentioning this path and the file name. Once this step is done, we will go back to mapping where we had added the expression, and now you can see this target also created. So I'll select and drop it over there. This time we will select write because we'll be writing to that file. So the operation that we'll select is write, and click OK. Okay, now we need to connect this expression to this target object. So for that, let's select all the columns with the shift arrow and drop it over there. Now you can see all the connections are made, and now we can once validate. So validation will tell us whether there are any errors in this mapping or not. So we'll click on the validate, and we got this message, no problems found. Then click OK. And then what we can do is we can right click and we can click on the run data viewer to see whether the results that we are getting are correct or not. So after the run data viewer, you can see here the results, and now you can see the average salary column is added over there, right? So if I consider this one, this case, so in Jan salary, Kamal Kamal salary was 2000, in Feb 1000. So the average salary is 1500. So this column is added. And once it is done, once you are happy with the results after clicking on the data viewer, you can go ahead and run your mapping. So we'll right click over there. Right click on the mapping. So this is a mapping which we have just created. Right click. If the option is not coming here, we can also run the mapping from here. Right click and run mapping. So once it is run, now we can see whether the results are stored in the target file or not. So in the server folder in infra shared, so there is a folder called as tgt files, in which I have just created emp target 1. So this is the file. I'll open it and here we can see the data, right? So hence using this way you can create a mapping and in which you have to configure the source, then expression, and then the target, right? And these were the objectives that we have covered today. If you have any doubt, you can discuss with me in the next class. Okay, thank you for watching.